Hi, it's Chaitni. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're having a really fabulous week. This week, I want to talk about progress over perfection. So, I'm sure it's a phrase you've heard plenty of times, but what I want to share with you is how I choose progress over perfection. So, to give you a little bit of a background, I am a recovering perfectionist. I grew up in a household where perfectionism was worshiped. My grandfather was a perfectionist. My mother still is a perfectionist. And that's pretty much how I was raised. So everything had to be done exactly how it had to be done. And so growing up, I felt in order to be loved, in order to be worthy of love and acceptance and affection, I had to do everything perfectly. Uh, and if I didn't, then I wasn't worthy of any of that. But as time passed and I worked on myself and I went through therapy and I made some changes in my life, I realized that this attitude of perfectionism was not working for me. I was putting too much stock in what other people thought of me uh, instead of just loving myself for who I was or who I am. I started to feel trapped. It actually made my depression worse. It made my anxiety worse. And it just plummeted my self esteem, because I was allowing other people to dictate my worth. So that validation, that love and acceptance, I let it fully ride on my perfectionistic attitudes and actions. But as I worked on myself, I started to shift some of that and I shifted gears and I started to choose progress and not so much perfection. Now, don't get me wrong, progress doesn't just come by sitting and asking the universe for it. It does require a lot of hard work, a lot of accountability. You need to be organized. You need to be disciplined to really get the most out of that progress. But at least it helped me develop a growth mindset versus having a limited mindset where I used to feel so stuck and trapped in my ways. I felt like I wasn't growing. And the worst part of it was, when adversity would strike, I would just succumb. I wouldn't know how to handle those difficult times in my life because I had become such a perfectionist. So today I share with you 5 questions that I ask myself when I catch myself acting like a perfectionist, which still happens. I haven't quite made the complete shift from perfectionism towards progress. I am a work in progress. I'm a human, and it takes a long time to peel off those layers that you've acquired as a kid. But today I can say that I am more focused on progress and I take more action towards progress than I did instead of being a perfectionist. So, uh, as I share these questions with you, I hope you ask yourself these same questions and then you evaluate the answers that you give yourself and make changes accordingly if necessary. The most important thing is you take what makes sense to you. All right, so let's dive in. The first question I ask myself is, why am I being so anal? Uh, in other words, why can't I let this go? What am I trying to prove and to whom? So the main question here is why. When you understand the answer to why, you can actually change the what. So the deeper I dig into whatever emotion is attached to my perfectionistic behavior, the more I understand what exactly is going on and the more I'm able to change it. It's more than simply being in control or feeling in control. A lot of times it really does have to do with my self worth, with wanting to feel like I'm enough, wanting to feel like I'm loved, I'm accepted, I'm seen, I'm worthy, all of those adjectives. Um, but when I ask myself why, the switch in my head flips. And that's when I realize I'm not living this life for anybody else. If you like me, that's great. If you don't, there's not much I can do about it. So at that point, it helps me let go of my perfectionistic tendencies. So whatever behavior I'm in the midst of, and where I am being a perfectionist and I'm being super anal about what I'm doing, it gets easier for me to let that go when I ask myself why. The second question I ask myself is this behavior hindering my growth? So if the behavior is making me feel stuck, or if it's making me feel frustrated, and if it's impacting my productivity, then I definitely want to change it, because it's not helping me grow. It's just keeping me exactly where I am, square one. And that's not where I want to be. So to give you an example, I like to work out multiple times a week, but there are some days when I'm just tired. My body needs a little bit more of a recovery, or it's, my depression that's getting the better of me. I mean, it could be a multitude of reasons. Bottom line, I don't feel like really working out, but I'll push myself and I'll procrastinate and get nothing done. So it'll look like I'll wake up in the morning and say, oh yeah, after I have my breakfast, I'll work out. Nope. And I say, oh, after I have lunch, I'll work out. Nope. Oh, maybe after a nap, I'll work out. Nope. Okay, what about 6 p.m.? I think that's a good time. That's exactly when I'm going to work out. No. Oh, you know what? I'll work out after finishing this movie. Guess what? That workout never happens. It's 9 p.m. I've gotten everything else done and I have not worked out. And then the guilt kicks in. It's like, what the hell? I spent the whole day doing everything else but working out, and I put all this pressure on myself. And this is something I used to do a lot more frequently, not so much anymore. And then when I started to, switch it up and really focus on progress, I started to give myself options. So when I would have a day like that, I would say, well, hey, what if we do a 20-minute workout instead of a 30-minute workout? Or what if we go on a really fast-paced walk? Or what if we try bar or Pilates, which is less intense? Or what if we really just take a break because our body needs it and just make up for it on another day during the week? I work out 5 times a week. So those 5 days can be any 5 days of the week. So it would take the pressure off of me. And, if you noticed, I was giving myself options. So when we stop being such perfectionists, it really starts to expand our world. We start to see options. We get more creative, and we allow ourselves to accept those options. So when you feel like you're being a perfectionist, ask yourself, is this hindering my growth? The answer is yes. It's time to switch some things up. Question number 3 is, will this behavior matter in 5 minutes, 5 weeks, 5 hours, 5 years? The fact that you're being a perfectionist and what you're doing is leaning towards perfectionism. Is that really going to matter in the long run? And it's a worthwhile question, because if it's not, then why are we being so particular about this behavior? Why can't we make some compromises and get the work done instead of trying to do it perfectly? If it's going to matter, then obviously you take the time to do it, right? If it's not going to matter and the bigger picture needs to be something else, then let's start focusing on that. When we live our daily lives, it's so easy to develop that tunnel vision, or, that very narrow perspective where we focus on the immediate. But the goal needs to be, if we want to grow and be the person that we want to be, we need to focus on long-term, on the big picture, on that end goal. So if what you're doing is not going to get you to that end goal, then don't chase it. It's not worth it. Just to give you an example, I believe that at the end of everything, our legacy is not going to be how perfect we were. The legacy is going to be how we made other people feel and how we made ourselves feel. So a few years ago, I lived in a pretty tiny apartment. It wasn't in the greatest shape. It was, but the location was great and the rent fit my budget. But the place itself was a dump. But I've had this tradition since I've lived in the States and my parents have visited, where I always throw a little dinner party, a get together, and invite my friends over, mainly so they can meet my family can meet them. And it's just another memory that I can hold on to, and for them to experience some of the Indian food that I grew up with. And so a few years ago, when I lived in that apartment, my mom was visiting, and, we threw a dinner party. She did 90% of the cooking. She is a fabulous cook. And she made all kinds of Indian street food, which is something that most people in the States haven't eaten. Because when they go out to eat, they're usually eating, I don't know, lamb vindaloo or chicken tikka masala. But they don't get to eat bhel and pani puri and pav bhaji. And dabili and vada pav, and that's the kind of stuff that my mom made. And again, the place was so tiny, I didn't even have enough silverware, enough plates. So I just opted for paper plates. I didn't have enough furniture or even comfortable furniture. I didn't even have enough counter space where I could lay all the food out, but we made it work. My friends were great about the whole thing. They raved about the food. I don't know how many of them walked up to my mom at the end of the night asking for a recipe and thanking her profusely for how delicious the food was. I remember some of them said, you know what, this isn't sitting well in my belly, but it was so good, I couldn't stop eating it. Some of them even took leftovers home. And even today, these same friends always talk about that party and how wonderful my mother was and how amazing her food was. So nobody cared about the minimal furniture or non-existent furniture. I know nobody cared about how small the space was or what it looked like. The only thing they remember and care about is how we made them feel. And that's why that feeling is way more important than showing the world how perfect you are or showing yourself how perfect you are. Now, the fourth question that I ask myself is this perfectionistic behavior making the people around me uncomfortable? When you're too much of a perfectionist, you want to do it all and you want to do it your way, and nobody else's way is going to meet your expectations. So it's very natural to make the other person feel like they're not enough. Or this is something I'm guilty of doing and I'm not proud of it, but sometimes I'll go back and fix somebody's work because it's not good enough. When you do that, you're really hurting the other person's feelings, right? All they're trying to do is help or contribute in some way. But when you go back and fix what they've done, it's hurtful. And again, that's not what you want to be remembered for. So to kind of give you an example, a couple of months ago, my dad came to visit me. He stayed with me for a month. It was a very stressful period in my life. There was a lot of uncertainty. I had so much on my plate and I was on a time crunch. I had to get so much done in a short period of time. And it felt like my to-do list was just growing every single day instead of diminishing. And so he would do his best to help out. And one of the things he did was the first time he offered to fold laundry. This is not something he does at home. So I really thought he was going to butcher it. And I told him, I said, no, I got it. I'll take care of it. Don't worry. You don't fold it the way I want to fold it. I'm just very particular. So let me do it. And then the next time he offered, I told myself, what am I doing? Like, this is so silly. I mean, who cares how he folds some of the stuff as long as it's not wrinkled and it looks fine when I wear it and I can find a spot for it in the closet. Like, this is really not going to matter in the long run. So I told him, I said, sure, go for it. But, me being me, again, recovering perfectionist, I did take a couple of minutes and say, okay, this is how I like my t-shirts folded, or this is how I like the towels folded. He was like, all right, I got you. And I kind of let him roll with it. And he did such a phenomenal job. He actually folded the clothes better than I do. I was seriously amazed. I was taken aback. And some of the things, yes, they were folded a little bit differently than I fold my clothes, but it really wasn't a big deal. At the end of the day, I was just so thankful that there was somebody in my life that cared to fold my laundry for me, that cared to take one more thing off my plate, that cared to help me out and make my life easier. And that's really what mattered to me the most. So, when things like this happen, when people want to help you, sometimes that's their love language. Let them do it, somewhere they feel like they're enhancing your life in some way possible. So always think about how your perfectionistic behavior is impacting the people around you. And then the fifth and final question that I ask myself is this behavior detrimental to my physical, mental, or emotional health? Is this pressure that I'm putting on myself worth it? Have I busted my butt all day to the point of exhaustion just so I can feel like I did this perfectly? And if the answer is yes to any of those questions, especially that first one, which is this detrimental to my whole health? Then something needs to change, right? Our goal in life is not to make things harder for ourselves. It's to make them easier so we make the most of life. The focus needs to be on growing and developing and transforming and meeting our potential, not being stuck where we are. And for someone like me who suffers from depression and anxiety, I don't want to add more to those feelings. I don't want to feel more depressed. I don't want to feel more anxious. So if I'm doing something that's contributing to that depression or that anxiety, I need to make some changes, because my goal for my overall health is to alleviate those symptoms, not worsen them. So just to kind of recap, 5 questions that you ask yourself, right? You always start with the why. Why am I not able to let go? Right? Why am I being so anal right now? Question 2 is this behavior hindering my growth? Question 3 is, will this behavior matter in 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 years? And then, is this perfectionist behavior making the people around me uncomfortable? And then number 5 is this behavior detrimental to my physical, mental, or emotional health? If the answer is yes to any of those questions, just take some time to evaluate what's going on and where you can make some changes. So I hope you enjoyed the content today. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share. If you want to learn more about what I do and how I can help you, check out my website. It's www.imperfectbodies.com. Also, if you're looking for ways to deal with overwhelm, I have a free guide that I've included. Check out the link below in the description and let me know if you get something out of it. But overall, I hope you have a great week, a phenomenal week. And thank you so much for checking out the video, and I hope to see you next week. Bye.